You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill Gaming Podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
It's November 14th, 2024, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill video game podcast. My name is John Wall, and every Thursday morning I bring you video game impressions, the latest industry news, and tales of a Gen X geek, delivered to you in 15 minutes or less, or your next podcast is free. To make sure you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to the show on all platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And I would be grateful if you left a review while you're there. Thank you for tuning in today. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 6. But first, taking a look at the headlines, and Nintendo is suing a complete idiot for repeatedly streaming pirated Nintendo games. Nintendo has filed a lawsuit against Jesse Keegan, claiming that the streamer has repeatedly streamed at least 10 unreleased games multiple times across Twitch and YouTube. They're seeking $150,000 for, quote, with respect to each copyrighted work. Keegan also is accused of profiting off of the pirated games by accepting money on his streams and starting new channels after YouTube and Twitch both pulled them down. And if that wasn't bad enough, Nintendo says that Keegan also sent the company a taunting letter saying that he had 1,000 burner channels, and channeling his inner Steve Rogers, he said, quote, "I can do this all day." And you know what? I don't feel the least bit sorry for this jackass. If you're going to not only stream what basically amounts to stolen Nintendo games and try to make money off of them while sticking your nose up at the company, yeah, I'm sorry, pal, you're going to get what's coming to you. Everybody knows that the only thing more polished and fine-tuned than a Nintendo game is a Nintendo lawyer, and I think you'll be signing your Burger King paychecks over to Mario for a long time. The air is getting chilly, and the leaves have fallen off the trees, which can only mean one thing: it's Call of Duty season. This year's installment is Black Ops 6, and I've got to be honest, I was not excited about this release, at all. I'm one of those rare players who goes to Call of Duty primarily for the campaign. I don't care about zombies, I don't jive with Warzone, and I quit being any good at traditional deathmatch multiplayer about a dozen birthdays ago. I still like a crazy, stupid 6-hour roller coaster of a single-player campaign, though. The Black Ops games, though, haven't hooked me in the past like Modern Warfare or the World War II games did. The word of mouth about this campaign has been really good, though, and thanks to the series now launching on Game Pass, it's a zero-risk proposition. And I'm really glad I gave it a shot, because this game is a lot of damn fun. Being that this is the 6th entry in the series, I was a little bit worried at first that I would be confused and not be able to follow along with the story, but then I remembered, oh yeah, this is a Call of Duty game. I don't really need to understand the story that much. It's the Fast and Furious of video games. All that's required is great shooting, cool explosions, and exciting set pieces. And apparently a guy that looks a heck of a lot like Robert Redford. If you want to know the story, there's these military dudes, and they're going up against some evil shadow operation, which may or may not be run by the government. But first, they got to rescue this guy who may or may not be a bad guy, who may or may not be Robert Redford, and then you have to blow a whole bunch of stuff up. And the blowing stuff up is really good. There aren't too many games that do stuff blowing up better than Call of Duty. The interesting thing, though, is that every so often in Black Ops 6, you're doing something other than making stuff blow up. And those parts are pretty good too. For instance, there are a couple of missions which focus more on stealth. One of them involves you infiltrating a political fundraiser to try and get close to your target. These missions are a lot of fun and have more of a Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11 vibe to them. Of course, they inevitably end with a lot of shooting and explosions because Call of Duty, but they're well designed and help to change the pace up so that everything isn't always cranked up to 11. There's also a segment of the game which is much more open world like and has you choosing the order in which to complete objectives. And there are side objectives which you can choose to do if you want. There's a level which, without saying too much, has much more of a horror vibe to it, which was really unexpected. And there's a base of operations which you can upgrade by spending money that you find on the missions to build stations, which will upgrade your stats. And this base also has a few secrets for those who choose to poke around and look for them. I was maybe most surprised by the few moments where the game reminded me of, oddly enough, Halo. There's a segment that has you driving around in a Jeep loaded with army dudes, and they'll hop in and out to help you fight. And they even snuck in like a wrist-mounted grappling hook that feels just like Halo Infinite. There's just a lot of variety to the campaign. And even though they're experimenting a bit with like the level design, it still has all of the trademarks that you would want from a good Call of Duty campaign. The gunplay is still the best in the business. It feels really good. It moves at a brisk pace, lasting about, 6 to 8 hours, I'd say. The graphics are pretty stunning with some great action set pieces. And it's just fun. It's just the kind of good, silly, blow stuff up fun that I need in my life every once in a while. Add to all of that an interesting story filled with espionage and double crosses and mission variety that will test both your trigger finger and your sneaky skills, and you end up with one of my favorite Call of Duty campaigns in a really long time. It's right up there with the Modern Warfare trilogy and Infinite Warfare. I know Xbox is counting on Call of Duty bringing in a lot of new Game Pass subscribers, and yes, I know I preach this sermon quite a bit, but seriously, if you don't already have one, go buy yourself an Xbox, get Game Pass. Black Ops 6 is just one more addition to an already killer service. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to check out Twin Cities Con, which is held every November at the Minneapolis Convention Center. It encompasses all manner of media, from movies and television to anime and comic books. Charlie's gone before and usually meets up with a bunch of his cosplaying friends. But this was my first time checking out the show, and I gotta say, I was pretty impressed with everything they had to offer. In the main exhibition hall, they had all the booths and the vendors. They had comic book artists and writers to meet, merchants selling things like art prints, comic books, toys, Funko Pops, and lots of handmade crafts like crocheted Yoshis and 3D printed swords and guns. Pretty much whatever kind of geekery you're into, you'll find something cool there to buy. I picked up some really cool Nintendo art prints to get framed and hang in my gaming room. Here you'll also find celebrity guests like Hayden Christensen and Ian McDiarmid, the Emperor. Grant Gustin from The Flash, and Lou Diamond Phillips of La Bamba fame. By the way, he was also in Black Ops 6. For Christina and Sam, though, the highlight was getting an autograph and picture with Brian Posen, also known as Bert from The Big Bang Theory. They also had lots of voice actors from video games and TV, like Tom Kenny, better known as SpongeBob SquarePants. It was a pretty solid lineup of guests. Lots of cool photo opportunities for fans. There were also lots of panels, rooms for gaming, and of course, like any convention of this type, loads of amazing people watching with all of the cool cosplay costumes. I could have probably just sat and watched that the whole time. I'm glad I finally checked it out. Twin Cities Con was tons of fun, and I think I'll probably try and get to future shows. Before we go this week, I am sending positive vibes out to the folks at Kotaku and GameSpot. Last week, they were both hit with pretty significant layoffs, and games media continues to be a wildly unstable career path. It boggles my mind that for an industry this huge and this profitable, we still can't seem to find a way to create a safe platform for professional games journalism to thrive. It seems like whenever a large corporation owns one of these outlets, the slow deterioration and eventual implosion is inevitable. And maybe the future will just be creator-owned outlets, made up of former media, like Nextlander and MinMax and Crossplay. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Those places do create great games coverage, but they're also at the whim of Patreon supporters for the most part. I don't know what the answer is, but we are losing more and more really talented people every year. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife SideQuest. I appreciate you making time in your day to hang out with me. You can catch new episodes of the show every Thursday morning wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review while you're there. And if you like, you can follow me on Threads or Blue Sky by searching for Midlife SideQuest. So until next time, be well and happy gaming.